Okay, am I ready to go here? Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for having me to speak at Tech Vancouver. Today, I'll be sharing my thoughts on what I've learned in building product and marketing strategies for companies big and small. Oh, backwards? That's okay. There you go. So before we get in, a little bit more about me. My first professional gig out of university was with the process team at TELUS. This role taught me the importance of structured yet fluid thinking. I learned to follow proven practices with rigor while embracing unknowns that come throughout the journey. Working on a technology initiative led me a path forward into roles in product management and digital marketing. And over the time, I moved back and forth between these functions, really finding commonalities in the underlying skills and steps required for success. Most recently, I joined a company called Kinzoo. Kinzoo is an early stage startup based out of Vancouver. We work in the kid tech space. Our mission is to create secure spaces for kids and their families to stay close no matter where they are. We're accomplishing this mission by building a messenger app for kids under 13 to express themselves with those who matter most in their lives without compromising on privacy and safety. So as with many startups, my mandate at Kinzoo involved thinking broadly, specifically my function in product and marketing. As is also the case with many startups, my first weeks at Kinzoo felt a bit muddy. Maybe you've been in the situation before where you feel really fired up about the opportunity, but don't necessarily see a clear path forward to delivering on the potential. Much of the press on tech unicorns might have us believe that, if we just sleep on it, we'll wake up in the middle of the night with a groundbreaking aha moment. And maybe this does happen to some people, so I won't discount that entirely. But in my experience, the path to clarity comes with process. And I'll be breaking down the process that I've gone through into 4 steps to make it a bit easy to digest. So my first gig back at TELUS taught me about the 5 whys, the idea being that only after asking why 5 times can you really get to the root of the problem and peel back the layers of the onion or abstraction, so to speak. I'm sure many of you have heard the TED Talk of Simon Sinek where he says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Our previous speaker just talked about passion. I think that really is reflected in that why. At the risk of oversimplifying, the responsibility of a product manager is to bring the right product to market. And the responsibility of a marketer is to move the product off the shelves. However, often the products that we fall in love with are based on an affinity that spans beyond the core feature set. We might describe an overall experience that feels seamless or elicits emotions such as joy or confidence. For me, this speaks to the presence of a unified why, where leaders have embraced their roles as storytellers, really asking those hard questions to set goals that ladder up to a shared mission. And while it may feel uncomfortable or challenging to drill into those questions and get back to the basics, sharing the story is key to attracting both customers and talented teammates. So as a process consultant, that first role, I learned that I had to represent the voice of the customer to sometimes disconnected departments. And going forward in my career, I believe in setting aside time outside of emails and meetings to keep a pulse on the landscape. This includes looking at market signals, interpreting quantitative data, and ultimately engaging with potential customers. Yes, unfortunately, there is no alternative or substitute for actually talking to people. What you hear from customers will either illustrate you're on the right track or indicate you're heading in the wrong direction. As a specific example, we were recently conducting usability studies for the Kinzoo product, and we had users call out things as much as new focus users that we felt were important, but they really were re-emphasizing the value of that potential user to our product, and even calling out little nuances in our positioning statement where they felt like we could better connect with the true problem that they were experiencing. So seemingly minor callouts can lead to a much better understanding of our user and an improvement to better articulate value to our customer. So a key step in facilitating a process is surfacing constraints. We can't possibly deliver all the things our customers ask for, at least not right away. This is even more so the case in a startup. You always could have more money for the marketing budget or invest in the product. There's only a handful of people. There's never enough time. To be able to effectively assess options and ruthlessly prioritize, you need to have a holistic view of what you're working on. And what better way to get this information than to build trusted relationships with your team? Echoing the previous point on the presentation, building that team of A players that you really trust and rely on, and bringing them together from different functions, different backgrounds and area of expertise early and often. So lastly, in sorting through all the previous points of knowing your goal, understanding the environment, and working within constraints, I have found myself in the position to be able to build a strategy. And building great strategy is really, really hard. Definitely not the point of this talk is to emphasize or claim that I've built a perfect strategy. But I've certainly found that taking best practices and adapting them to the type of culture I want to create has helped me build a process where I can learn as I go and get through to that point of clarity. Sometimes this means trying things that won't scale or testing a hypothesis before making a big bet. The key takeaway for me is that there's no one-size-that-fits-all approach. Trust the process and embrace the mud. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for doing that.
Time.
She's on it. She's not mudding around. Any questions? Wow, this is a really shy crowd. I won't bite. Maybe I will. Okay. Well, I think you shared a lot of insights into kind of the importance of culture. What do you think defines your culture in terms of if you were to pick kind of one trait that you always tend to look at for in an employee?
That's a great question. I think openness.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, we at Kinzoo, we look about looking for people who, they're confident in what they bring to the table, and we have that culture of openness where we want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. I think ultimately that's what the process that I spoke to should facilitate, is making sure that anyone who can contribute can feed in, that we're open to that feedback, we're ready to hear it, and we want to work on it together.
And then just going on the polar extreme, for me, the question I always ask is, who is your favorite character from The Wire? And if you're unable to answer that, then I don't hire you. It's a joke, but not really.
Stringer Bell?
There you go. Okay. But what would be a trait that you tend to, I know you said openness, so the opposite would be being closed off. But what's one thing that you kind of struggle with when you see that as a trait in someone you're interviewing?
Okay, another good and hard question.
Sorry, I'm like Barbara Walters, but back when she was like preview.
Yeah.
Read the book.
I think a red flag, especially in a startup, is a bit of a lack of curiosity. Yeah, in a startup, it's important to ask questions. Ask questions about, the why we're doing what we're doing. Ask questions about what we need. Ask questions about, what you want to bring to the table. Ask questions about where you see us going. I mean, I think it's that curiosity that reflects a passion. And, a lack of that might mean that you just might not be quite suited for the startup environment.
Kind of reminds me of that Steve Jobs thing. Be hungry, stay foolish.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. Well, thank you so much. This has been
fantastic.
fantastic. We've loved having you.